For about 3 months, I kept a document open on my screen every single day that I never wrote a single word in. I sat down a browser tab I never closed, a permanent accusation at the edge of my peripheral vision. Every morning I would open it, read the last few lines I had written 6 weeks earlier, feel a familiar tightening in my chest, and then minimize it and find something else to do. Something important, always something that genuinely needed doing. Emails that required responses, tasks that had been accumulating, spaces that needed to be cleaned before I could think clearly. I was never idle. I was the most industriously avoidant person I've ever known. The work itself was not difficult. That was the part that disturbed me most. It was not technically beyond me. It was not a problem I lacked the skills to solve. I had done comparable things before and done them adequately. But every time I sat down with the intention of making real progress, I would spend 20 minutes rearranging the conditions, adjusting the lighting, making another drink, reorganizing the notes I had already organized, deciding I needed to read more thing before I could start. And then the morning would be gone and I would close everything down with the quiet understanding that I'd failed again, and tomorrow I would do better, and tomorrow arrived and I did not. The project kept growing heavier. That is the specific cruelty of procrastination that nobody tells you about. It does not pause while you avoid it. Every day you don't touch it, it accumulates more weight. The longer you wait, the more significant the first step becomes in your imagination. The further the work recedes from what feels possible, the more elaborate the internal justification for another day of not doing it. I was not falling behind, I was actively constructing the conditions of my own failure for postponed morning at a time. The lowest point came when I sat down one evening to calculate it and realized I had been actively working around this one thing for 11 weeks. 11 weeks of full days that had not produced a single hour of genuine effort on the only project that actually mattered to me. I had produced other things, I had responded and organized and prepared and maintained, but the thing I cared about most had been left untouched while I performed busyness around it like a ritual, like a ward against having to find out whether I could actually do it or not. That last part, that was the thing I had not admitted to myself. I was not avoiding the work because it was hard, I was avoiding it because doing it badly would mean something. Doing nothing meant nothing had been tested. The document stayed empty, and so did the possibility, still there, still intact, still full of what it might become. The moment I started, the moment I committed real effort, I would find out what I was actually capable of. And some part of me had decided, without ever making that decision consciously, that not knowing was safer than finding out. I sat with that realization for about 4 days. It did not make starting easier immediately, but it changed what the resistance was. It stopped being laziness I was ashamed of and became fear I could see clearly. And fear, once named, is a different thing to work with than shame. But after those 4 days, something unexpected happened. I sat down one morning and I did not open the document and read the old paragraphs and feel the tightening in my chest. I opened it, looked away from it, and typed a sentence without reading what came before. Just one sentence, not a good one, not important, just motion, just the sound of keys and something appearing on the page. And then another. And within 11 minutes I was working, actually working in a way I had not been for 3 months. Not because the fear had gone, because I had started before it could organize itself. Procrastination is not a productivity problem. It is a starting problem. If you are out there with a tab you haven't clicked on in weeks, a project that has been following you from 1 month to the next, a thing you care about that you keep performing busyness around, I want you to hear this clearly. The resistance you feel is not evidence that you are lazy or undisciplined or not cut out for the work. It is evidence that the work matters to you. You do not procrastinate on things you don't care about. You procrastinate on the things where failure would actually hurt. Stop waiting until you feel ready. You will not feel ready. Readiness is a story the avoidance tells to keep you still. What you are looking for is not motivation. Motivation follows action, it does not precede it. What you are looking for is just the first 30 seconds. Open the file, write one line, send the first draft, make the first call, make it bad, make it incomplete, make it whatever it needs to be to exist in the world, rather than in the perfect, untestable form it currently occupies in your head. The gap between the person you are now and the person who is doing the work is not a gap of discipline. It is a gap of 2 minutes. Shrink your starting condition to something your resistance cannot argue with. Not, I will work for 3 hours. Your brain will fight that and win. Instead, I will open the file and write one sentence. That is all, one sentence. The inertia breaks in the first 90 seconds, and after that, the work will carry itself for longer than you expect. Do this every day at the same time in the same place before you check anything or consume anything before the day builds up a reason to postpone. Make starting a location and a time, not a feeling you are waiting to arrive. Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art calls this force resistance, the internal opposition that rises up in exact proportion to how much the work means to you. He writes that the more important creative or ambitious act is to your soul's growth, the more resistance you'll feel toward it. That is not a flaw in you, that is a signal. The size of the resistance is a map to the size of what is waiting on the other side of beginning. You already know what you have been avoiding, you have known for a while. You do not need another framework or another video or another morning of preparation. You need to open the thing and put one word after another until the session is over. Because you were never lazy, you were afraid to begin. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.